What's up, guys? Welcome back to Kind of Funny's game. Damn it.
What's up?
What?
I can't believe I forgot this in the shot.
Oh, shit. Damn.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Kind of Funny's Game of Thrones in review, the final season. I am Tim Gettys, joined by Andy Cortez,
Hey, guys.
Kevin Coelho, Andrea Renee, the keeper of plot, the explainer of scenes, Andrea Renee, and Nick Scarpino.
Hello.
The loudest liquid pourer in Westeros.
It's all relative. It's only loud because it went really quiet at that moment.
You held it up to the microphone.
Yeah.
Well, now that I knew I had your attention, I was like, well, just lean into
Only
the
loud
joke.
because it was quiet at that moment. It was only quiet at that moment because Cool Greg said 3, 2, 1, be quiet.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. A lot of communication happened.
Yeah.
How you guys doing?
Good.
All
For
right.
everybody listening, Tim grabbed his Starbucks cup at the top of the episode
Yeah.
there.
And if you
For
don't get
audio
that
listeners.
joke, Nick,
You don't have to get that joke.
they totally just left a Starbucks cup in one of the scenes.
You're fucking kidding me.
Not
on
kidding.
the table next to Daenerys.
I'll show you. I'll pull it up for you.
No.
It was like, did you notice it watching the episode? Yeah,
God, no.
no one noticed it.
So fucking
I
funny
didn't
though.
notice it. Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
really
probably
is.
the most exciting thing that happened in last night's
Yeah.
episode.
100%.
Oh, that's fucking hilarious.
Yeah. So
That
it's
is
like
awesome.
in the background
It's
here.
just a random Starbucks cup. That's awesome.
There's an image that somebody else posted in response to the Starbucks
Of them.
cup. It's a picture of Sansa and
funny.
Liana, the actresses, taking photos on set. They're taking a photo on set, and Sansa, the actress, what's her name?
Sophie Turner?
Sophie Turner.
Mm-hmm.
She's holding a Starbucks cup, and it's like this is really Sansa's play to try to fuck over
Emily
Daenerys.
Clark, yeah.
I love it.
That's funny.
Awesome.
That's really funny.
I saw a thing that was Westeros got a Starbucks before Wakanda did,
Oh yeah, I think it was Alana. Alana tweeted that. Yeah.
That's a good one.
which is
Really
great.
good.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Game of Thrones, the final season in review here on Kind of Funny. You can watch it live Mondays, twitch.tv, 11 a.m. That's where you want to go. You can get the show later on Rooster Teeth or youtube.com/kindoffunny or podcast services. Just search for Kind of Funny Reviews. It's the same podcast feed that we do our Kind of Funny in Review show that we do every Tuesday.
Hit that subscribe
Just
button.
hit the
What are you
bell,
waiting for?
ring the things, do all the stuffs. Before we get into the plot, Andrea, I kind of want a table read of where's our Game of Thrones interest levels at this point.
What was the season that you said I didn't like very much? 5? Not quite there yet, but getting there.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, I've been watching a lot of Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
That's a good show.
That's a way better show
Brooklyn
at this point.
Nine-Nine in review coming soon.
Holy oh, I would totally do that. It's kind of boring, and the show off at the end of the showdown at the end of this one, I was just like, what the fuck is happening? Why is there like 20 people in the scene and not entire armies? I don't understand what's going on here. So I don't know. I was not enthralled by last night's episode, and it's starting to go downhill for me.
I'm kind of in the same boat as Nick here. I've been pretty disappointed that they are rushing through some major plot points and taking some creative license that I think is not the right call, because they are trying to wrap up an entire series worth of events in just 6 episodes.
Yeah.
And we can debate the merits of like why they did or did not do it, but it's just been really disappointing, some of the creative choices that they've made with some key characters. And we had to say goodbye to some characters, not because they died, but because like it was clear that we're no longer going to see them ever again in the series.
That was it.
And the way that they handled it was kind of like, what are you doing?
And why? Where's Sam going?
I've been really disappointed in these last 2 episodes in ways that I did not anticipate.
And I would agree. Like you see this, and it's almost like, and I hate to say this, but it's like we could have used 1 more season or at least 6 more episodes with what's happening now in King's Landing and all that stuff. Like them just being like, well, see you later. And as he's like walking out, he like says bye to like 8 really major characters. You're like, I don't know if that's the way to handle this.
I disagree because I don't think this could have used another season. If these are the choices that they're making creatively, I don't want to see more of this.
It's just, I just
That's
feel
a
like
good point.
I think we're skipping around. Like the dragon dying last night came out of nowhere. That was just, I was like, okay, that was a really bad moment for them. It would have been a cool moment if we had built up to this like. It just seems like characters are skipping around the map very, very quickly here. Whereas in prior seasons, a lot of the battles had this immense buildup to them or is something crazy would happen that would negate the battle completely. And we're just not getting that. We're getting random like gotcha moments where you're like,
Yeah,
that's
my
weird.
problem is the fast travel stuff last season that we really saw. I feel only really got people to places so that a thing could happen, which is like I was fine. I feel like now we're getting fast travel for character development.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Jamie and
good.
Brienne, they finally happened. Oh, they are split up in the same episode. Like that's just it's weak. And the dragons, it's like, were they ever a threat? Seems like they're just getting
Yeah, it
taken
seems
down.
like they
left and
suck.
right.
Like,
it seems like scorpions
were the
were a
direwolves
solution.
important? Seems like they're
Maybe
not.
we should take a moment and be like, how do we beat these giant arrow throwing, these spear chucking things? Like maybe we could have some sort of cannonball or something that could beat those things. Because if not, the dragons suck. Keep them back.
I think one of like the biggest,
Yeah, we can get into
one
that
of the
when we get to
worst
that scene
things
for
that
sure.
was said was on the post after the episodes sort of thing where they discuss it. And Benioff, I'm not sure who's Benioff and who's Weiss, I always forget.
DB and
But
D.
he was like, oh, well, Daenerys is flying towards King Landing and she forgets about
Euron.
She forgets about Euron and the fleet. It's like,
Oopsies.
She
How?
forgets? No, she doesn't.
Well,
they
he
talk
thought
about the
garbage.
strategy in the council
He
meeting.
says she kind of forgets. He says that. It's like, what do you mean? How do you forget about people with like the fucking Qyburn and his scorpions? Like, I don't understand that. I just
Euron's entire character development is he's a crass guy that does crass things, and boom, he's in the water, and no one saw him coming. How many times has he done this now? I feel like he's surprise attacked and taken down key elements about 4 times now in the last 3 seasons. And
He's-
it's just like
he's
that's all he
fucking
does.
OP.
He's OP
Yeah.
as fuck.
I have a lot of very, very specific thoughts about that scene, but I'll hold them until we get there.
I'm not quite as down on it as a lot of people seem to be. I feel like a majority of the internet is kind of like, man, this is not going well. I feel like I don't feel like it's quite over yet in terms of like my interest level. I still am very interested in the last 2 episodes. I just upon watching this, I'm like, I feel like this was 120 or an hour and 20 minutes for the sake of being an hour and 20 minutes. Like I feel like a lot of it could have been cut away. There was a lot of like conversations that didn't really need to happen. I don't know. I just felt like we hear, oh, these last few episodes are going to be really long, and it kind of gives you hope that like, oh, these are a lot of stuff's going to happen this episode, but really like the last third is where we got a majority of the action, and the rest of it was kind of Ghost just sitting there wanting pets,
And not
Not
getting
getting
them.
not getting
not
them.
getting them. How
Like
sad
interacting
is that?
with that CG is really hard.
I'm most bummed because episode 2 this season I thought was Game of Thrones at its peak, where it's just like here's characters that we care about acting in ways that we understand them to act with each other, cool dynamics, so good, and then I just feel like it's just they're at forks in the road and they just go ways that I'm like, I'm not interested, I don't believe in this, and it sucks because I really feel like this is a tarnish on what was an amazing series, and now I'm like, it's great.
Well, even
It's
the
not
even the
this
season
beautiful
premiere was
thing.
great. Like
Yeah.
episode 1 of
One
this
and 2.
season was phenomenal, and then 2 stepped it up, and you get those really cool character moments where they're all sitting by the fire and they're saying their goodbyes, and then it kind of Battle of Winterfell happens, and it's kind of a lot of people aren't super stoked with it, and this last one I felt in the first 40 maybe 50 minutes just like, man, I just don't really care about what's
Yeah.
happening right now.
I really feel like part of this episode felt so much like the second episode of the season, but like done totally wrong. Where it was like, we're gonna give all these people their goodbyes, but it was just like, all right, bye, see ya. And it's just like, well, why did they survive if in the next episode you're just like, oh, hey, now they're gonna go to the north and we're never gonna see them again. Everyone's saying we're never gonna see them again. Are they gonna come in the last minute and try to save the day? Cool.
Is Ghost gonna
Like-
ride Drogon?
That'd be amazing. Wolf riding dragon, riding man.
Oh my god, dude. That's
Wolf
very
riding
visual.
dragon, riding man.
Again, maybe they are going to be the cutaway. Maybe these characters that we said goodbye to, or again, is it Weiss and Benioff scared to kill off major characters where
would be
George
so-
R. R. Martin didn't give a shit?
Well, they're clearly not that scared to kill off major characters, as we found out in this episode.
This
So-
is Game of Thrones, the final season, episode 4, The Last of the Starks, which is a badass fucking name.
That's a cool name.
First aired May 5th, 2019. Directed by David Nutter, once again. Written by David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, with a runtime of 1 hour and 18 minutes. Andrea, hit me with the plot.
All right, so episode 4 opens with the aftermath, the day after, we have to assume, from the Battle of Winterfell. It starts with Daenerys overlooking Jorah's dead body on the funeral pyre. And then we get Sansa with Theon, and then we kind of get this wide shot. We see this massive collection of individual pyres that represent the thousands and thousands of bodies that fell during the battle in last week's episode. Jon gets out in front of everybody, and this was an interesting choice for me that we didn't hear from Daenerys at all in this scene, considering how many people she lost in the battle between the Dothraki and the Unsullied. And he gives this good speech about keeping them alive in our memory, and saying that they were the shields that guarded the realms of men, and calling back to his Night's Watch vows. And so it was a really kind of nice, somber scene to end cap the battle that happened last week. And then it cuts to...
Real quick, I felt like the speech was to tell the viewers, like, hey, this was an important... Like, a bunch of these people were important. Like, look at all these important people. And it's just
Look
like...
at all these named characters with the torches.
And
they're going to do it.
I just didn't feel like this battle was that important, like, or at least story-wise, we lost that many people that, like, were a big deal.
Super attached to.
Yeah, exactly. So we cut to the next scene, which is in the Great Hall, where they're having this dinner feast. But
Which is cool. A fun little throwback there, and seeing it again was like, oh my God. Episode 1 was the last time that like we really sat in that room that I can remember, at least. And it was a very different type of feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And even
And
the showrunners talked
John
about
was
that
outside
in the
fucking
post-show.
shooting arrows.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Commentary.
So we have Gendry and the Hound kind of teasing Gendry about, like, where's your girlfriend kind of a deal. And
Gendry being like, hey, where's Arya at? Anyone seen Arya? And the Hound being like, dude, we get it. All right, you're in love. You're dumb.
it was a funny little moment.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot, yeah.
And then we have Daenerys giving some accolades to Gendry as he gets up to leave. Daenerys sees him, and then she calls him out, as Robert Baratheon's heir, and says, well, the Baratheons have always held Storm's End. You're now the new Lord Baratheon of Storm's End, which is like cool.
Yeah.
And then immediately looks at Tyrion and says, you're not the only clever one, which is like, to me, writing that is just breaking the fourth wall of like, you only said that to like let the audience know that this is a scheme. She is doing this, not because she believes in Gendry. Fuck all. It's just she's trying to like look like she's a good queen. I'm like, what the fuck?
I want to give a shout out to the Hound in this too, by the way. Did you guys notice that at no point did he stand up or stop eating?
Oh, yeah, no.
He's like, fuck you guys. I don't like any of this shit. I'm leaving after this.
Yeah, pretty much. And then we get a cutaway to Jaime and Brienne drinking together. Then we have Davos and Tyrion, who are talking about what happened to Melisandre.
That was a dope conversation.
Then we get to Tyrion and Bran. And this is another like creepy Bran moment of him just being weird about like, mostly I live in the past. I mean, this is kind of like a rapid fire of all of these different people going together. Then we have Tormund making a toast to the Dragon Queen. And then this is where Daenerys makes a recognition of Arya's role in last week's episode, saying, I thought she said to Sir Arya Stark of Winterfell. I thought for a half a second. I even watched it twice, but I didn't pause it and rewind it. But
I just heard Arya.
To Arya.
and so they did a toast to her.
And throughout
then,
all this, we keep seeing Jon Snow kind of smiling because he's happy, but also because he's uncomfortable, but also he's kind of happy, but also he's like uncomfortable.
because they
always-
haven't reconciled that conversation that they had in the
I
crypt.
feel like there's also a lot lot of looks like cuts to Daenerys being like, oh, look at him,
super uncomfortable and alone.
Look
Look at how
Fucking
happy
bitch.
he looks. Yeah.
Yeah.
They really
exactly.
beat you over the head with
That's
everyone loves John.
That's
Just so
it,
you
man.
know.
But like that makes
everyone
so
loves
much
John.
sense that everyone she's new. She's been here for like 2 weeks. Like chill out.
Yeah, but I mean, you would think that like after that big battle, everyone would just be like, "We're all good now. We're all on the same team." But they really set they went to great length in this episode to set her both physically and like emotionally apart from everyone else in it. And I get it because that's going to be the main sort of like
thing that drives between them,
Well, I mean, there's already a wedge there, and so now they're going to obviously lean into that as one of the main conflicts of the episode, or of the rest of the season. But it's just like, again, that's going back to my earlier point. Like, I would love to see that develop over the span of a season, but we're not going to get that.
I
So
would have
everything
loved to see it
feels
develop
so
last
fast,
episode.
so fast.
Yeah, if they had touched on it at least a little bit last episode, I think they could have set this break that happens up at the end of the episode a little bit more.
But the battle was so big last episode, they didn't have time to do any.
But they could have
relationship
probably cut
building.
some of the stuff that we saw in the
100%,
battle
yeah.
to give because
or that we didn't see.
well, right, because this is one of the big
'Cause it was dark.
discussion points we saw come out of last week's episode was was the White Walker threat really meaningful at all in the entirety of the Game of Thrones series. Is the main crux of it, has it always been the back and forth between the characters, the actual game for the throne, right? And I thought that was really interesting because we're clearly right back to that now. It's like this posturing of who's going to rule.
Politics back immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is kind of cool because I
makes
miss that.
sense.
I miss
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sort of stuff about Game of Thrones. Classic
Yeah.
Thrones stuff.
But how they're going about it, I think, is up for debate. So
Yeah.
the next group we see is Tyrion, Brienne, and Pod and Jaime. They're playing a little drinking game, and they're clearly having a good old time. Cut back to Dany looking somber with the creepy Varys just kind of in the back. The thing I wrote down in my notes is she doesn't have a clique because it kept kind of going to these different groups of people, and she's clearly just by herself. And then we cut to Sansa and the Hound, which is a weird dynamic, of course. And he talks to her about how you've changed, little bird. And then she says, I would have stayed a little bird, in reference to everything that happened. And there has been a lot of debate about this on the internet over the last, couple of hours since the episode aired, about how it's really unfortunate that they took a character like Sansa who's overcome so much, and then they're attributing the things that happened to her, like the rape and the abuse, to making her the strong woman she is today, and how kind of gross that is.
It's all she has, man.
See,
It's
I
bad
mean,
writing.
yeah, it's horrifying. But I also read that as like I've overcome all that, and that's
Right.
why I'm the badass that I am right now. Because he says, if you'd have come with me, like none of that would have happened. And she said, if I'd have come with you, I wouldn't be the person I am today, which is the person that now understands how the world works and understands the dangers, and that's why I'm such a good leader. That's why I'm going to be the Lady of Winterfell and basically the War of the North when all this shit's over, because I get the horrors of the fucking world. I'm no longer an innocent child. I am this thing that gets it, and I'm looking over and basically, and you see that the whole episode because she understands where the threat is now. And who does she look at the entire episode? Daenerys. She's like, that's the fucking threat. That's the thing that's going to tear our family apart. And we see that later in the episode where basically the Starks get together and like, yo, John, get the fuck over here.
Yeah.
Like, we need to talk about
Quit
this.
being a
Yes.
bitch.
Stop being, stop
Hey,
being
John.
that.
I think
keep
it's important.
making bad decisions.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that the reason why people are upset is not because of what you just described, because
Sure.
I'm with you. People, I think, are
She's
upset
only strong because she was raped.
because
and
there's
stuff like
not
yeah.
that many strong women in this show to begin with. And,
I think there's a fair amount of strong women.
well,
Like,
if you
I
think
think all
about
that's
the
left
ones
is
that are...
strong women. We got John and the rest
No, I'm
of the
talking about women that are actually in positions of power, right? That actually have real agency in their world, not just like they have some cool quippy lines, right?
no, but like I mean, Daenerys, Cersei, and Brienne. Like these are all.
Cool, that's 3. My
I mean, at this point, there's not that
Right.
many.
Point.
Yeah,
No,
there's
my-
not this many characters
There's not
left.
that many
My
characters
point
alive,
is
yeah.
the argument, and I'm not sure personally how I feel about the arguments one way or another, but I'm just recapping what I've been reading online, trying to understand
Right.
like where the anger is coming from.
Yeah.
And I think it stems from this place that a lot of female characters don't get the opportunity to be in a position of power, let alone because they got there on their own merits. It's because something happened to them, or they had to suffer some kind of abuse or this and this to overcome it, that they can't just be strong because they are strong. And a lot of times we don't get those same types of backstories with male characters. I mean, I'm not talking just specifically about Game of Thrones, I'm talking about literature overall. I mean, and this also stems from George R.R. Martin being a relative perv in the book series, and the way he treats female characters in particular in the book series is really gross overall. So I think that we could make a whole conversation just about that. So I don't want to dig into it now. I just wanted to bring it up as something that I think is important to recognize. Anyway, continuing on.
I got nothing.
There's a lot more. So then we see Gendry has left the great throne room area, the great hall, to go find Arya after just being named the Lord of Storm's End. And
I got this clout now.
he decides
be
he
impressed.
wants to make a grand gesture.
Yeah. He just got
and
verified
drops
on
down
Twitter.
to one knee.
No, I fucking love this
That
scene,
first
right?
fall.
Because and again, I mean, not to go back to what we were just talking about, but,
Yeah.
but I do love this scene for all the reasons you're talking about, which is that he goes, I want you to be basically my wife and like come with me and be the lady of what is it, Storm's End.
Storm's End.
And she's like, no, that's not me. I'm not that person.
Which
Like,
is a great callback to
Yeah,
season 1
that's
when
not me.
conversation she has with Ned.
is that what it was?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, which is awesome.
There was also something I left out of the scene between Tyrion, Brienne, Pod, and Jaime that I was like, I had such an eye roll moment. So they're playing this like truth and lie game where you guess the truth or whatever you drink.
Or you drink, yeah.
And
It's a game we've seen
Tyrion
before,
pulls
right?
a really low blow by saying, you're a virgin and calling Brienne out. And I thought it was a shitty move on the part of the writers. It's like, she's been this amazing character the entire series, and you're going to pull lunchroom bullshit. Oh, you're a virgin on Brienne? Like, seriously?
It was a weird moment.
It came out of
all
nowhere.
All of that, like we're tying up a lot of character loose ends with this, and I don't love all of it. Like, because remember what happens next is she gets up and then. Was it Tormund? Is that how you say his name? The redhead goes to follow, and Jaime gets up and like stops him, and you're like, okay, this is like,
Yeah, this is going down.
This is a lot of she's all that right now. Like, what's going on here? High
was it
School Musical.
Like, surely there are other ways to get her and Jamie,
And Jamie
in
in
bed.
bed. Yeah, I mean, you have these
I do
two-
agree with you, Andrew. It was kind of.
Well, we have these two incredibly intricate like adult characters, and this just felt like a really weird like. Okay, I get it. They like we're back in junior high, and they have to admit that you have to put your two friends together to admit they like each other. Like, this is fucking weird.
I felt like the tone shifted so much when he like, and it was like they were all having fun, and then out of nowhere he says this, and it's just like
Party foul, dude.
yeah, like did you want to win the game that bad? Like,
Yeah.
is that even how you win?
You win or you die.
Yeah, well, and then
Game of Thrones.
and then yeah, then we had the
All about the
moment.
game.
That's how
all
you
about the
play
game.
Triple H.
Yeah, that moment stuck out for me too. Like, that was weird. And then, but I do love how Tormund is like, he's like crying,
Yeah.
and then just immediately goes, "Well, I'm just gonna hook up with someone else, and that's all that's gonna
Yeah.
happen. That's fine."
I didn't like that. I
really?
just
It was very fast.
Let's round up the characters. They're
Yeah,
done.
exactly.
Tormund, hey, you got all
Exactly.
these great lines.
Going back up north. See you later.
all the silly like chemistry that you wanted Tormund to like, kind of be with Brienne because
But
he loves
he
her.
never
and
had
Wasn't
that
that?
chance,
Yeah, wasn't
you know?
that? Wasn't that like not ever put in the
No.
books? Like, wasn't that a thing that?
No, it was just a
they
silly
made
thing.
for this?
yeah. But I still feel like
Because I feel like the Jamie brand that makes more sense.
it was so throwaway to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So throwaway.
Exactly, that's the perfect word. Throwaway. Because after the scene with Gendry and Arya essentially saying, "I'm not a lady, I never have been," that's when we cut to Brienne inside her room, and Jaime had followed her in there, and then they have this back and forth, and then they have this like romantic moment where they undress each other, and then oh my god, fireplace makeout begins.
yeah.
Nice.
Let's get it.
All right.
Yeah. After that scene, we have another fireplace bedroom scene. This one didn't go as well for
unfortunate.
Daenerys and Jon.
I
So
just hate these two characters together. I still do. I just like after so many seasons, they have no chemistry.
they didn't set their chemistry up enough for this premise
They
that they're
didn't
both
earn
madly
any
in
of
love
this.
with
They
each
don't
other.
fucking come off as loving each other,
It
and you're
feels
like,
like
just
tell
kill
not
each other.
show constantly.
Yeah.
it's
I
not
feel like
good.
they constantly need to tell
Whereas
us.
like the scene directly before that was just Jamie and Brienne. They have such good, like, you believe that she's not his type and he's not her type vis-a-vis, but together because of all the things they've been through and because of all the things they've learned from each other and like grown. They love each other
And the
now.
respect
You
they
get
have for
that.
each other, yeah.
Like you get that he is not a fucking cat anymore because of her, because he had to make that sacrifice, and he's a better man, even though he's missing a hand because of it. And like then the next scene, it's like, whoa, we're back in junior high. I like you. Here's a note.
Man, you're my aunt. I'm still fucking
This
you.
is like the first time where I was like, oh man, there really isn't much chemistry there, where they're just standing next to each other. And it's just like, there's supposed to be this dramatic scene, and you don't feel it.
You don't feel it
Yeah.
at all. This was the moment in this episode where I was just like, fuck, this show's not special to me anymore. Like, this feels like a TV show where I know exactly what's going on here. Like, there was a wedge being divided between them because of this thing. She's like, you need to promise to not tell anyone. You're
Right,
making
that-
Jon Snow promise that? Do you know, if you love him, you know that he's not going to do that.
Well, I
you don't
think
know this
also
guy.
he
like-
pretty much told her that he's not going to keep
Yeah.
it a secret.
I just
right?
immediately pictured Michael Scott when he has to
Keep a
the
secret, yeah.
that the Michael Scott paper company is going bankrupt, and he's like, oh god, I can't do it, I can't do it. It's just reminding me of that. Like, you cannot count on him to lie. He's like
Yeah.
so
Also,
pure.
like, why-
He's Nick and me.
No, I
I'll
wouldn't
put
know
myself
about
in
that.
there,
Yeah,
trying
no,
not to
yeah, I
like.
can't break rules.
When Tim and Kevin are trying to get us into a place, like, oh, just cut the line, and me and Nick are like,
Ask
oh,
for
I feel
Mike.
bad.
No, we're gonna just be out here, guys. Like
I'll
somebody
wait.
just tell us if it's cool
I'll
inside.
wait.
No, but I mean, honestly, like, and this is just obviously like a shortcoming on John's part, is that, and we see this later in the episode, where if you tell one person, you might as well tell 100 people. This is Varys has a great line later where he goes, "This isn't a secret anymore. This is
Yeah.
information now,
Yeah.
and
I
the
love that.
information
That's a
can be
good line.
used as a weapon.
I
and can be
mean-
used as a political tool."
Varys
That-
and Tyrion's conversation.
that was all
good.
great.
Very
I
good.
love
information
that.
going person to person, you seeing it
You
kind
see
of go.
hate
it start
that.
dissipate.
I loved that, but it's like back
I mean,
in
but it's like a
multiple
love-
seasons
yeah.
ago. That would have been over a couple episodes. Like it
Right.
reminds me a lot of Joffrey's death. When it's like, who did it? How did it happen? And then you just see the information kind of go from character to character. And then when it's revealed it was Elena,
Yeah.
it's like Tyrell.
Well, that was
you're
like
fucking
several
kidding me.
season later,
Did
right?
anybody even know that besides?
But then
Elena?
when
There were
in that
theories
season, it
involved,
built
yeah.
up to Littlefinger and like that reveal of her,
Yeah.
him helping and who he was involved with. I'm like, that's great.
Really cool.
This kind of felt like the one episode truncated version of it. And it gave me hints of old Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay. Like there is still DNA here that I
Right.
enjoy.
One of my
I just-
favorite tweets about this whole Sansa thing is like, please, you can't keep this a secret. Promise me you're going to keep this a secret. It was like, and then Sansa started a group text. So true.
Yeah, no,
fucking told
exactly.
everybody.
I hate when John is just constantly making these decisions. Like, why are you telling people? Like, does your family really need to know this secret that your dad like took to the grave?
And that's the thing too, is
just,
like it's a perfect example of like he's like, I don't want the throne. Then why tell
Yeah, then
everyone?
why tell
does it
people?
matter then?
Yeah.
If that's really the case, go to her and be like, I don't give a shit about this. I'm not telling anyone. Let's kill fucking weirdo McGillicuddy with the eyes and the ravens. Just kill him so no one else
he's
knows.
done now.
And then
He's
you can
done
take the
his part.
throne, and I'll be the warden of North, and occasionally we'll summer together and bang it out. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, so we're not quite to that
Even though you're my
scene
aunt.
between the Starks. The whole reason for
weird.
the episode named the last of the Starks. So Daenerys says to Jon in this moment, I need you to swear Sam and Bran to secrecy. And then Jon says to her, I want it to be the way it was between us, and her saying, I want it to be that way too. And I've just told you how. And she kind of drops her face and gets really serious. And then the scene ends. Then we cut to this really short moment of Jaime and Bran naked together, kind of confirming that they boned.
Bang it out.
Nice.
And then we go to the council meeting where they try to decide what they're going to do about Cersei. So Jon says the northern forces will honor their alliance. Daenerys obviously concerned that now that the fight is over, that she's going to be all alone when she goes south to King's Landing to try to take the Iron Throne. We have Sansa representing the northern houses saying our men are tired, they're exhausted, they just fought this crazy battle. We need time to recuperate. And Daenerys getting really upset that it looks like they're going back on their promise. Jon stepping in saying, we have allegiance to Daenerys. She is our queen. We, of course, will honor that. We will ride south with you. You tell us when you're ready to go, and we're with you the whole way. I mean, the whole time
Except for
they're
the
doing this.
wildlings. The wildlings are just gonna go.
Right. Well, the wildlings bear allegiance to no king or queen, right?
Which is bullshit. I feel like at this point, like, there's what?
Their allegiance. is to
100
Jon.
There is no
200 of
north
them
now.
left?
Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the thing. Is like that was
Yeah.
only the wall was only made because the Night King. If he's gone,
But here's the thing: like the wall for thousands of years now has been protecting the like whatever south from it from the wildlings.
Yeah.
So they're just gonna go and become a problem again? Are they gonna have to establish?
That's
So
what I would have said.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why don't you guys just hang out here and then we can all just be friends forever?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm shocked
Instead-
Daenerys wasn't like, no, you're not
Yeah.
going
You
can't
anywhere.
go
What are you
anywhere.
talking about?
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I don't think she
I'm
has
your
the
queen, you know?
power to keep them there. I don't think she has enough manpower.
Definitely not.
she has
To-
the
to
power to do
prevent
whatever
them.
she wants.
Yeah.
It's like she has plot
She
armor
has a
times
dragon.
1,000.
She has a dragon
Yeah.
that can be shot down very easily,
Yes.
or not easily at all.
So we're not quite there yet. So they
Really
make
good
this
aimers.
plan, and they
Really
decide to
good
go. Daenerys is going to go on what's left of the ships, and go south with the two dragons. Then Jon is going to lead the ground forces and meet them outside of King's Landing. They're going to siege the city. And this is where Varys is really kind of trying to exert his influence to say, please don't become the queen that everyone's anticipating you being. Don't kill all of these innocent people. They're the people you came here to save. Don't just storm King's Landing and burn it all to the ground. Him really pleading with her to not do something crazy.
That was a really solid moment when we have the moment where it just pans on him and he's like, hey, you told me to
Look you in the eyes,
look you
yeah.
eye and tell you, and it's like that was a really cool payoff and really cool and really interesting where
But
they're going with that.
They've also had this conversation before, right?
Yes.
Because when she was thinking about originally taking King's Landing, she was like, I'm just going to go burn it down. And Tyrion and Varys were like, you can't do that because these are the people you're trying to save and rule. And like killing them
Do you
all
want to rule
counterproductive.
fire? Or
Right.
I forgot what they said. Do you want to rule
Over
just
ashes
like
or
over ashes?
something,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So after this meeting adjourns and they kind of come up with their plan, Arya and Sansa are like, John, we gotta chat. So
I like-
they pull
I
them
like
aside.
this
We've got Bran. They're out in the Godswood. They're having a meeting of the Starks, and that's
And I got
when,
chills.
yeah,
It's
and
like
that's when
it was like the one reunion that I didn't expect we were ever going to see, especially where it was. It was so nostalgic, and I enjoyed how it went, but it did eventually feel pandery.
Yeah, it was interesting because I feel like Bran has been a useless character these last 4 episodes, and that's maddening knowing the journey he went on to get to the Three-Eyed Raven, what he had to do to survive, to get back, everything they did to keep him alive during the Battle of Winterfell, and for what? We haven't seen him use his powers as a Three-Eyed Raven once this season.
See him
with,
warg
with the exception
into
of warging
something.
into the Ravens.
Ravens,
and,
yeah.
and it's,
But, like,
and it's just
why?
like, what the heck is even going on with him? And I'm just so confused why the showrunners aren't utilizing him, because you would think that he would be such an important tool for what's about to happen.
I
And
feel
then
like there's a deeper problem too with just the writing and with the way that the show is being ran, where with Bran, they keep telling us that he's no longer Brandon Stark. So then why is he one of the last Starks? It's like they kind of need to commit. Like, I would have enjoyed more if he was like, at some point, if Bran was like, I'm just going to chill. You guys can have your conversations. I'm not one of you anymore. Now it's like this weird 1 foot in, 1 wheel out thing, you know?
Well, that's why I was making
That was
the
awesome. Thank you. For that.
That's why I made the joke about when he meets Jamie at the gate, right at the end of episode 1, and for Jamie to be like, "Well, you kind of said before you're not Brandon Stark anymore, so
we
you
good.
shouldn't be mad at me." Like,
Yeah.
I do agree with you where it is like, what really are you then? You know, and why are you here? You know,
Yeah, just go away.
Yeah, and then there's this kind of standoff where John is looking at Bran and Bran's looking at John. He's like, "You tell them, no, you tell them." And
Well,
Bran's
since it's
like,
your choice.
And Bran's like, "It's your choice." And then
He's like, okay, fine.
and then of course we get this dumb scene where John's like, "No, but really, guys, you gotta promise you're not gonna tell anyone." And then Arya, of
dumb.
course, in all seriousness, I think there's no doubt that we trust Arya would keep this secret to her grave. But we all know Sansa isn't going to. As
Yeah.
they said in the post show analysis, she learned from the school of Littlefinger. You know, so she's definitely going to use this information to better her situation and to use it as a political pawn. And so John leaves the scene essentially saying, "Bran, tell them the whole story," but we don't get to see it, obviously. And then we get.
I wonder how much detail he went into. Because like he's all seeing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, did
Oh.
he see the boat situation?
I mean, it
go
would have
down?
been it would have been nice to maybe
boat
have
situation?
them relay some of that, but like
When they fought.
down to the scene
Tyrion
where
out in the hallway.
Ned goes into the tower to save her and he like takes the baby on her deathbed and all of that. It would be great if they'd given us a little bit of context, but they didn't. Instead, we get another weird scene that I don't know how to feel about with Tyrion and Jamie. So they are having this moment between brothers where
God, I
Tyrion
forgot this scene.
where Tyrion
The fuck was
is
this?
teasing Jamie about hooking up with Bran. He's like, "I've been waiting forever to make mountain jokes, or tall people jokes," and he's like talking about climbing
Because he had to
mountains.
climb it, right? Which you assume people would have said about him in the past, and so he's like, it's kind of fun to be able to turn that around on
Yeah.
you, my asshole brother.
Exactly, but then of course in strolls Braun conveniently after
What?
the Battle of
Hated this.
Winterfell
Now,
with
to be
the
fair,
crossbow.
that's exactly what Braun would do.
Yeah.
There's no way Braun would be like, I'm going to go there before this shit. He would probably just sit there and wait and see who won and then stroll in.
It just
That's
felt
what I
like
would do.
such a. It felt like such a fucking Screech Powers walking in the room, like, "Hey guys, what I missed?" Like that moment,
Yep.
like it felt
it was
so bizarre.
Well, the disappointing thing for me with this is that seeing those three guys like reunited, or seeing Jamie and Braun reunited, I was like, oh, he's gonna roll with them. He's gonna be like the roll dog now.
No.
And he's like, nope. See you later. I've got this giant thing, which, by the
what
way,
are you
only
gonna
shoots
do?
one, and then you have to reload it, so the other guy could just come.
But he
Doesn't matter.
reloaded real
Oh
fast.
yeah, he did. Also, you have to remember Braun's like a really good fighter too, so I wouldn't want to take him on. But at the same time, I'm like, this is like, it's one of the few scenes where you see where you're like, so many scenes in Game of Thrones have been the threat, but the threat has been basically like two people with no weapons. and it's more of a threat of like what I can do to you and what leverage I have over you. And this was just like a physical, like I'm holding you at gunpoint. I'm like, this kind of feels weird.
It just didn't feel like I believed in Bronn's character. We know
all,
Bronn.
yeah.
We've seen Bronn forever. Him punching Tyrion in the face. When that happened, I was like, I like this. And then as they kept going, I'm like, oh wait, no, like you really meant to fucking
you're a dick.
fuck with. You're being a dick, Bronn. And I get that like he's been promised a lot, and specifically from these two guys, but like they're good on it.
Yeah,
just
like-
keep pushing.
But him just popping in just felt so stupid.
So
So how
He
the
was,
hell did
man.
he just stroll into an inner chamber of Winterfell when there's a bazillion guards outside?
There's a crossbow the size of a human being.
Are you good? Or are you bad? And I'm like, I'm good. Okay, cool. He's
Like,
cool.
oh, you don't have blue glowing eyes. You're cool.
You're
Like,
fine, man.
Yeah.
Just carrying a Lannister weapon. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
It's just like
What's Bronn going to do the rest of the season, though? Like,
Nothing. I mean, that was his goodbye.
Did they set
right?
this up as like him just being gone? Like
It
that
seems
sucks.
like it. Yeah, it really does. It just seems like a total waste of this character that we haven't seen almost at
Like,
all. Is he
what-
doing something else?
One of my favorite characters
Yeah.
in the whole
Yeah.
series
Yeah,
just kind
yeah.
of got this. It's like, it's pretty lame.
So he asks, Tyrion is like, do you remember the deal that we made? And he's like, yes, that you would pay me double what anybody else offered me. And he was like, well, Cersei has offered me River Run, and how can you double River Run? And then Tyrion says, Highgarden, I'll make you the Lord of Highgarden, since we know that family is now defunct since they are all dead.
Who are the higher end people? Was it the phrase?
And then
Marjorie.
this is where we
Marjorie.
see Jamie kind of pushing back, saying a cutthroat will never be Lord of Highgarden, and Bronn kind of flexing back and saying, who do you think built your house? How do you think
Yeah,
the
I love
Lannisters
that.
came to be? And I do like that he's finally standing up for himself a bit and feeling confident, but I really just had hoped that meeting had gone a little differently. The idea that Bronn has some sort of allegiance to Cersei, knowing how manipulative she is, when these two guys have actually been there for him all series, left a bad taste in my mouth, to be sure.
just
Also,
wanted him
what's
to be a
stopping?
bro.
What's stopping them from just going like, "Hey, take 8 people and go kill that guy real quick"? Like we don't have to do shit. Like he's clearly not trustworthy. He doesn't trust us. We don't trust him. All of our friendship, all of that, because you always got that. No matter what he said, he still was loyal to Jamie. And now you're like, oh really? So you're just not. You don't care.
This is bumming me out, man.
It is. It's really sad. But I do want to call it that one line he talks about where he's like, every house was basically like. He has that
Started
whole
that way,
diatribe
yeah.
where he's like, I'm going to go take this house. Every house started this way. And then I'm just going to have a bunch of kids who can later fuck it up like you guys have.
Like, I would love
And I
for
was
him
like,
to
I
walk
like
in,
that. That was cool.
talk to them, and you're like, he's gonna fuck him over, and then just like, I believe this belongs to you, and give it to Tyrion or something.
Yeah,
like,
and then walk
he's
out.
a bro again. Like, fuck yeah. we're gonna
Instead,
have
he shoots it and like it just unrealistically like has it reloaded again immediately, and it's just like
That's
we've
weird.
seen that particular one get reloaded very slowly on the floor, and I get that he's a lot stronger.
Tyrion
than,
not battle
yeah.
ready.
Yeah.
I just want some more wins. I feel like there haven't been any like really, really cool wins
That's
yet.
hilarious that you say that because we just saw them beat the fucking Night King, and we don't count
Yeah.
that as a cool win.
Oh, absolutely. The scene with Arya and the Night King is probably the biggest win of the season so far, right?
Yeah.
Like that's,
But
that's
is it good? Is it a good win? Or are we like, that's,
I like that
I
one.
want to
I
rewatch that
liked it.
moment.
Yeah.
Where she came out of nowhere and it was like, oh no, she sneaks. It's cool. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
I like
I'm
that
down
one.
for that being a yes, that's a W for sure.
That's a strong W, yeah.
I
That's
just
a
want
little
I just
baby
wanted like a
W.
little bit more reasons to cheer in this episode, and I haven't gotten to them yet. So the next scene is we cut to the Hound on a horse outside of Winterfell. He's clearly leaving. He's like, I'm done with all of this tomfoolery, and Arya rides up beside him.
Beautiful shot.
And, yeah,
I
it was-
loved this giant wide where you just see the snow and just Winterfell in the back.
Nice and
Awesome.
bright. The quality looked great.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
You can tell which character was talking.
Yeah, it was great.
And they have this moment where she's like, oh, where are you going to King's Landing? And he's like, yes, I've got some unfinished business, essentially confirming Clegane Bowl 2019.
Get hype, baby. It's happening.
So that's really exciting that hopefully we're going to get to see that for sure. And then she's like, kind of they have this banter back and forth. And she's essentially telling him, like, hey, like, do you mind if I roll with you? And he says, are you going to leave me to die again? And she says, probably. So a nice moment between them. And so clearly they're both off to King's Landing. So we might just still see Arya murder Cersei yet.
So with them going down there, something I was thinking about is the last time at the end of season 7, we see Jaime leaving King's Landing, and it's starting to snow there. So why is it not snowing there anymore?
In King's Landing?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. They
Winter came and went, man.
Like
Kill the
that,
Night
that's
King.
maybe
Gone.
like the threat of the Night King was was changing the climate a bit or some shit?
No, I mean it was winter. Like right before he leaves, doesn't he say something to Cersei along the lines of like
I
it's
don't
winter?
know even in winter if it actually snows in King's Landing. This is
But
something
they showed that it happened. Like
Yeah.
that's my problem.
And
It snows in LA every once in a while.
Yeah, snowflakes coming down does not necessarily mean a snow accumulation.
I thought that was just a hint of like.
Right. Yeah. There's
oh,
been
fuck,
snow, and
like-
there was snow in San Diego last year, but it doesn't stay. Like it falls and then it's gone. Right. So I would need to dig into some of the lore in the book and actually
the
see if
Doppler
there's
radar.
history.
I'm
of
pretty
snow
sure
in
it snows
King's
heavily
Landing.
in King's Landing.
Let
Like
me-
when
You're
in
pretty
winter.
sure?
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys this question: if Arya kills Cersei, would she be the goat of Got?
Okay. What do you
Thanks. No, it would be like
The
a bad
goat?
story thing.
greatest
you
of
know?
all time?
Of Got?
If
Game of
Daenerys
Yeah.
and John
You know what, Andy? Get
listen
on
to this
board.
podcast, they probably could have solved some problems
No,
a lot earlier.
here's
Because
the
this episode is brought to you by. All right, back to the plot, Andrea.
I do want everyone to know that Greg Miller thought the goat of Got was
Horrible.
genius.
A lot of people in the chat were like, "I'm leaving."
Terrible.
That was it. That
Chat-
pushed them over.
You don't know
I mean,
that.
They were
The
like,
chat
There's no
loved it.
denying that she's the goat of God,
The
but like
chat
if that's
loved
the way
it.
it's gonna go down, like why all the
And if that's the way you're going to deliver that joke.
why all the pomp and circumstance?
Which one's more egregious, the joke or the delivery of the joke?
Both.
Just
so
a 1-2 punch.
I looked up the snow thing, and it says that in the novels, snow starts to fall in the city in the last chapter of A Dance with Dragons, which of course was the last book to be released. So just from there, we don't know how much snow is in King's Landing at this time.
Well, we know now. None.
None, apparently. Okay.
Global warming, dude.
Anyway, continuing on. We have a short scene with Daenerys and the dragons where she's watching Rhaegal fly away and she's with Drogon, and it's just a really short scene. And then
We're
have...
seeing Rhaegal struggle in the back, like
Just a
learning to
little bit,
fly,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
kind of like
with the
recuperating.
holes. in his
Exactly.
wing.
Like, he's clearly on the mend after being in the battle, but he's alive, and so that's confirmed there. And then we get a scene on the wall of the Wall of Winterfell with Sansa and Tyrion. And this is when he is trying to talk her down, because it's very clear that Sansa just cannot be BFF with Daenerys. And as her hand, Tyrion is trying to find some common ground to be like, hey, just stop fighting it. Like, she's gonna be the queen, and you guys just need to get on board with this. Clearly, John is. What's your problem? What's your beef? So they're having this talk, and he essentially reminds her, hey, John is in love with Daenerys. He's going to follow her to King's Landing. You're going to be the true power in the North. You need to take that seriously.
Not good enough
but
for her.
also, you need to not fight the throne, because if you go against the throne, they'll come after you. And wouldn't it be great if you could just like be Warden of the North and be happy with that? And then this is when the scene ends with Sansa looking at Tyrion and going, but what if there was someone else, someone better? And that's when it indicates that she, in that moment, tells Tyrion
Loose
the
lips.
truth.
And I normally love these sort of conversations. I feel like obviously we have problems with a lot of the plot and the writing, but I feel like the dialogue has always been really good in these sort of conversations. I did not like her looking at Tyrion and being like, you're scared of her. Because I don't know what that is intimating towards. Like Tyrion's never really had a I'm scared of any sort of...
We kind of saw it though. I feel like they've been building that last couple seasons with when he was in the boat when they were fucking, and like that look on his face where it's like, I do feel like there's a level of him seeing that Daenerys is spiraling.
Yeah.
And I feel like
She's
he's
clearly
scared of
not-
that. He's not scared of her.
She's not the
Gotcha.
same person he met when she
Yeah.
was like ruling over whatever that
Marine.
Yeah,
Got
she's
it.
totally different now, and she's got a little bit more of like a cutthroat edge to her now.
Yeah.
because you do get, even the audience gets it. Like, she's contemplating killing John. Like she's
Yeah.
that's rattling around there somewhere. Like, how do I have a just giant dragon come down and eat him real quick?
Yeah.
No one knows what happened to John.
Feeding
I don't know.
time.
Did you see him? I think he went to 7-Eleven and he never came back.
I think that's a fair
Starbucks,
point.
I guess.
But I think it's also important to remember that Tyrion has failed her on more than one occasion, and he's acutely aware that he's made some grave mistakes that she's had to reprimand him for. I mean, we saw at the very beginning of this season him talking to Jorah and to Grey Worm, being like, it's going to be one of you that's going to be taking over as the Hand, because she's mad at me and doesn't like me anymore, and I keep fucking it up. So I think he's also, that's the other side of it too, is that not only does he probably see her kind of getting more and more psychotic with each passing episode, but he's afraid that she might lash out at him in ways that he never had to really experience with his family before. So the next thing we have is this
his family did try to kill him several times.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
So
so
you would think that he would
I don't know if it would be more extreme than that.
But you think he would be more afraid of Cersei, and he clearly is not, which we'll get to at the end
Also,
of the
his
episode.
dad,
That was
his
ridiculous,
dad
yeah.
had sex with the woman he loved. It's mean.
yeah.
Yeah, it's fucked
Super
up.
Really
mean.
fucked up.
So
Well,
the
that dude
next
is cool,
scene is
though.
kind of this farewell scene that we referenced at the top of the show today, where Jon is packing up on his horse to lead the army south to King's Landing, and then he has this kind of fun moment with Tormund where they kind of have this bro out, like, oh, it was good to see you. And Tormund saying, well, I'm going north, the true north. I'm going to head to Castle Black as soon as the winter snows have abated. So that really means that Tormund's going to be hanging around Winterfell for at least a couple of months, if not a couple of years by the book standards of winter. But what that means for him seeing Jon again, clearly I think Tormund is assuming that once Jon rides south to King's Landing, if he survives, that he'll never make it back to Winterfell. So that was kind of an interesting moment. And then Tormund asks him, will you take Ghost with you? And then we cut to the shot of poor Ghost with his little ear missing because he's been beaten up from the battle. And then Jon's like, no, he belongs in the north, which is probably the right call instead of bringing him to King's
Why?
Landing.
It's bullshit,
but then he
dude.
doesn't
How?
even say goodbye, and I'm so
Dude.
sad.
What?
It's just so
What are
hard.
they thinking?
Yeah. Dude, this is I'm telling you, man, this is totally them kind of forgetting the dire wolves were in play at all, and maybe even forgetting that the dire wolves were kind of a part of all this until towards the end. And I feel like this is just totally them fixing things and being like, fuck, dude, what about Ghost? What do we do about Ghost?
You
Like,
think there was a moment where DB Weiss so was like middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning. Shit, Ghost. Yeah, fuck. We forgot
I mean,
something.
honestly, that's what it felt like, where it's just like, all right,
because they just show him alone, like kind of in the corner with like nobody else around
Yeah,
him, because
yeah,
it's really
yeah,
hard to
that's a
comp
late-
in people around like bigger animals. I don't like. It just totally feels like them. They made a mistake and they're kind of like pushing
this
it
is
at the
how
very,
we're,
very end.
we're
Yeah.
resolving it. But like,
Yeah.
that's what so much of this episode felt like. Of like, oh hey, we've got to close off this storyline. So they're gonna leave and just go north. These guys are gonna go maybe to the Citadel. I don't know what's going on with Sam.
Oh
We'll
yeah,
see.
Gilly and Sam. This was to me like the most heartwarming
pregnant
moment.
again, eh?
And like I think the thing I'm happy about with this is while I'm sad that Sam isn't going with Jon, it made me feel good that at least somebody is getting a happy ending here where, Gilly reveals that she's pregnant and that if it's a boy, they're gonna name it after Jon, and it's clear that he's probably going back to Old Town to continue his studying to become a Grand Maester. And
I
it's
feel like he should go to his
house,
house,
right?
yeah,
and just take over whatever.
Yeah,
that was.
exactly.
'Cause
Rule
he's the
there.
last of his.
no, you're right. He
household, right?
should, but I mean, he's always wanted to be a maester and to study at
Samuel
Citadel.
could become
But
a
yeah,
person
like-
without a face because he can kill anybody. Clearly, like he had 40,000 whites on him and he just killed them all.
Just
Like,
laid down. They're like,
Yeah,
I've
this-
never
this-
seen
yeah.
this technique before.
This whole
This guy's
ghost
just laying on top of
situation.
us.
I think the ghost situation really is the perfect example of my problem with this season and the last couple seasons and in the show as a whole, because it's like there's these characters that are attached to the main characters in such a real way that for so long we saw, and even if we didn't see much of the Dire Wolves, every single time we saw them in the first 4 seasons mattered so much. When the dogs were killed, it meant something. It was symbolic of the Starks losing and the Starks dying. And then Ghost has just kind of been gone, but then he has these moments, him being there when Jon died and was like next to his dead body, like coming back. It's like all of that is symbolic. All of that is supposed to build something. And then for him to just be here, sent off, Jon literally just looks at him, doesn't even touch him.
Doesn't
just
get off
looks
the
at him.
horse, doesn't pat him goodbye, nothing. It's tragic.
But my big problem with last week's episode was this battle had more cool elements potentially at play than we've ever seen before. All of our favorite characters are there. Bronn could have came in and saved someone with the crossbow. The fucking wolf could have done some stuff. The dragons could have done cool things. And just none of that stuff happened. Instead, we saw Sam laying down, a lot. And to not have Ghost beat people up, to then see him without an ear and then just get the piece. Nah, bro, this ain't
yeah,
it.
this is a major misstep for me as well. I think that they totally biffed this. That gave Ghost like the shittiest goodbye ending ever, and it was just like, why?
They should have just given him voiceover, like, not even a hug, bro, for real. Like,
Or like he ran like it's your.
If this is really
you doing me like that, bro?
Would have
Wow.
been basically if he ran away and then like up on the hill, he turns back for a second and just one paw up
Yeah.
and then bounces. Like,
But imagine, so now we know eventually,
Yeah.
skipping ahead a little bit, his dragon dies. So
Yeah.
Jon no longer has a dragon. How fucking epic would it be in
Yeah.
the final battle if he rides the direwolf, symbolizing he is a Stark. He really is a fucking Stark. No. He's
Yeah,
chilling.
we're almost there. So the next scene is the ships sailing south towards King's Landing with the remainder of the Unsullied. They talk about the remainder of the Dothraki, but we don't see any.
We don't
'cause
see 'em.
I think the assumption is almost all of them are dead, except for maybe a handful.
It seemed. Didn't they imply that half of them survived?
Which is fucking bullshit. It's what I
Yeah.
said last week.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're just going to make up magic numbers. We
Yeah.
saw them die.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
sent
yeah, they
them
said we
all
only
to
got.
die.
They said we got half our numbers, right?
Yeah.
Like we're half what we used to.
gotta
be. I'm like,
imagine that,
really?
like-
Because it looked like you got 4 people left after
Lights
the
out.
fucking
Way
battle.
less.
Yeah.
And then that was the other thing too. Is obviously it's like budget wise, but everyone's giving shit for like they light all the bodies that died on fire. There's only like 500 of them. You're like, dude, we saw
be
thousands
a
of
lot
people
more,
die.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like that smell would last forever.
Yeah, indeed.
Forever.
I mean, I think that's some,
I can't
like
get the smell of Kevin out of my
suspension of
clothes.
disbelief at work there.
Burnt Kevin.
What are you doing?
But we got this cute moment.
Find it, so we had to keep going.
It's okay, Nick.
I
I'm
think
just
everyone
talking
got
over
it.
you now. So we had this cute moment between Missandei and Grey Worm on the deck where they're standing next to each other and she reaches down and holds his hand and we get like this kind of close up, this cute moment. And then it cuts to inside the ship, Tyrion and Varys talking about Jon's secret. So obviously
Probably my
Tyrion
favorite conversation of the whole
has now
show.
told Varys, and they have this really intense conversation where with each conversation with Varys throughout this episode, his concern about Daenerys is growing, about like, is she going to do the right thing? Do we need to be concerned? Varys reminding Tyrion, hey, I've always been for the realm. You can come at me about how many different monarchs I've worked for, but it's all always in preservation of the realm. And then they have this like, what is the realm anyway? What does it mean? And that's when
Because
you
it's
know,
like the realm, we've been fucking fighting for like 60 years. This realm, the realm is shit. It's shit.
yeah. And then
Like, it's gone to shit.
Tyrion has this line, well, maybe Cersei will win and kill us all. That will solve our problems.
Love that line.
It's a great line.
I love that.
Which is kind of like, yeah, actually, it probably would
That
solve
kind of
our
would
problems.
actually.
And then it cuts to Daenerys flying above the ships. She's on Drogon and flying
Having a great time.
next to Rhaegal, and so they are approaching Dragonstone, and so they have this cool shot of the dragons kind of flying over, and then out of nowhere.
Wait, question before this. Dragonstone, is that where Stannis used to be?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Where
It's where she
Daenerys
was
was when
based out
Jon
of.
came to ask her to be part of the effort
And
to
that's
stop
like
the army
halfway
of the
between
dead.
the North and King's Landing.
It's Essentially,
Pretty
they-
close to King's Landing.
Yeah, they essentially have to pass Dragonstone in order to get to King's Landing.
So they wanted to hold that.
Yeah, so I think that they wanted to like kind of maybe
They
stop
didn't leave
there.
an army
and-
though.
She should.
You know?
What she should do is tell Cersei like, you actually want Dragonstone because the throne in Dragonstone is way cooler
Way
looking
cooler.
than the Iron Throne.
It's true.
Way cooler.
I
looking.
agree.
Here's what I will say. What is the point of having 2 giant dragons if they only fly 20 feet off the ground the entire time and can't actually see what's coming toward them?
No,
Like
this
they
is-
couldn't
she-
see the
this
She
fucking
was
is like-
fleet.
flying so high
I was
then,
so
though.
Why
pissed.
couldn't she
There's
see
no
the
way
fucking
she wouldn't
thing?
have seen that entire
Yeah.
fleet. I would have believed if it was maybe 1 or 2 ships and they were hiding in like the rocks there. But like there was like a dozen ships there. There's no
was
way she
so
wouldn't
many
have
ships.
And
seen
then they
them.
looked over, they saw the Kraken on the sails, they're like, is that the good Kraken in the
Yeah, we
background?
can't
It's
tell.
got
No
a
one
red
explained this
eye,
to
so
us.
it's the bad one.
Oh my
And
God, what a
so
terrible
he
thing.
gets like 3 or 4 of the giant crossbow
Gets 3
scorpion
in the chest,
arrows.
the wing, and right through the fucking.
I mean,
neck.
this thing is like.
Look,
I'll tell you this
Jesus.
though.
right out of the
hell.
jugular.
What I did not expect was for them to turn the scorpions on the ships, and I was like, "Whoa,
Dude,
wow,
It looked
those
really
things
cool.
fucked everyone
Tyrion
up."
running through the shit, I felt unsafe, and I loved that. I was
Yeah.
like, this is a really,
And he
really
made the choice
well
that I would have
done.
made too. Just get in the water.
It was
action
really
scene.
cool, but I feel like these scorpions went from like being able to embed themselves in like a bone to like ripping through ships, like ships with like a foot of wood that it just went through both sides.
buy
I
that.
don't understand how it got
I buy that
so strong.
because I feel like after they had that face off against the dragon with the original version of the Scorpion, I'd imagine Qyburn, whatever the fuck his name is,
Qyburn,
went back
and the
was like,
showrunners
we
discussed
gotta-
that in the post episode sequence
these
where they're
things a
like,
little bit.
Yeah.
Qyburn
Jack 'em
saw
up.
that his original Scorpion design just wasn't cutting it, and so he retooled it and made it much more powerful. And I think they were right to remind the audience, like, there's been a kind of a long time between when the first Scorpion was out on the field of battle and when this moment happens. And so Cersei just sets all of the, Smiths and King's Landing to making all of these. We see them, later on in the
She's got 'em
episode.
everywhere,
But
smartly.
the thing that made me so upset was that then Daenerys does this crazy dive bomb on Drogon straight towards all of these, and then he magically gets away from all of the arrows, which is
barrel.
great. But how do you not just make a big wide circle around? Because those ships can't just turn
can't turn
around.
around.
And then just light them all up
You're
on
done.
fire.
Yeah.
Like they don't retaliate
Or come from
at
above.
all.
They can't go.
thinking the
They can't
above.
shoot at more than a 30% like angle. To just come from straight above and burn them all down.
It was infuriating
This is
the way that
the
they
one.
handled
This is
So
the one thing
upsetting.
I really like. It was a little annoying because you're like, there's no tactics anymore in this show. There's no one that like you would think if you had these three amazing, if you had like three bombers in World War II and they were the only bombers that you had, and someone had a fucking gun that could shoot one of them down, you'd be like, we need to figure out how to neutralize that gun because it is taking out the best advantage that we have. If we don't have the fucking bombers anymore, we don't have the sky. They have the ocean. This is dumb. No, everyone's like, they probably won't use that thing again. Oh, there's hundreds of them? Oh, we're fucked.
Dude, 8 seasons, the direwolves, the White Walkers, the dragons. And this is what, in 2 episodes, we're seeing all
They
these
did
things.
wrangle dirty, man.
Just like get
did
It really
him dirty.
did. It
The way
sucks
he
that-
coughed up blood was so violent.
He got
was
one in the
violent.
fucking head, dude. I was like, oh, they got. Oh no, he's dead.
He's done.
He's dead.
He's fucking done.
It just sucks that all these, both dragons now have died, not during a battle, but during it's flying to
Trivial
go,
bullshit.
It's just like, oh shit, we weren't expecting it. I really feel like they're doing it just to be like, oh shit, a dragon died, and it was like, well, it sucks that we're never gonna see these used correctly in battle.
yeah.
It was incredibly infuriating, and the whole thing with Missandei and how they were able to magically capture her.
Yeah. See, instead of the boat sinking and her dying,
I'm
which
okay
would
with
have made
that
more
though
sense.
because Grey Worm yelled at her to get on a
skiff.
boat to get
Yeah.
away. So it's I imagined that she was a lot easier to see than all the people that were just in the water.
I thought he was saying get under the go into the boat.
I must
But
have
also,
missed
again, another dumb thing. Why would you not then take the entire army that you have on all these boats and go to what is Stannis' place? Dragon's Lair,
Dragonstone,
and capture everyone that's there? Why would you just sail away? Why not go get Tyrion, Varys, all these people, and then you basically neutralized her entire fucking
Absolutely,
staff?
yeah.
All of her gone.
all her ships were gone.
They just saw. They
Yeah.
just swam to the shore. They were like, well, guess we're safe here. There's 5 of us. We have no one left. No fucking nothing. It's dumb.
Yeah, it's
And
not like they were sitting there with bows and arrows. They couldn't defend themselves.
Yeah, you assume maybe, and you have to kind of take all of this with a grain of salt because you assume that there's more forces out there on both sides. They always say that, hey, you're seeing 500, but really this is kind of the implication is we've got thousands of people on these boats and all that stuff. So I get that there might have been more forces waiting on land to back them up, but at the same time, it's it just seems silly that they were just we got him. Let's sail away now. Let's go back to King's Landing because we're cool. And then he just time travels back or fast travels back over to King's Landing.
Can't fucking wait to tell Cersei about this.
Guys, should we go get those? No. We gotta get back.
The fact that he was
getting
pretty
ready.
much unchallenged is doesn't obviously bode well for Daenerys coming into King's Landing. Just cements Cersei's position of power and how Cersei made the right call to abandon her vow to help them fight the army of the dead. And now she's even more crippled than she was before. So this cuts finally to our first sequence with Cersei in King's Landing that we haven't had for quite some time. So we've got Euron and Cersei and Qyburn. Then she has this line to him. He gives the news that, yes, I saw the dragon fall into the sea. It's absolutely dead. She says, the lion shall rule the land, the kraken shall rule the sea, and our child shall rule the north.
I love this. I love this moment
Cool as
because
hell.
I love that.
Tricked him.
Not only do I love that line, but then Euron looks at Qyburn and Qyburn's like,
Yeah,
you fucking did it, bro.
Did she say our child will rule the north or them
Yes.
both? I thought she said
I
our
thought she
child
said
will
them both.
rule them both.
She said them
Yeah.
both.
Them
Okay.
both? Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I just misheard
I
that
think
then.
whatever the kid is going to rule basically
win
everything.
everything.
Yeah.
And this is when we get confirmation that Missandei is back in chains and that she is captive in King's
up,
Landing
man.
with the mountain there to make sure she doesn't go anywhere.
It's going to be real weird when this kid comes out blonde though. You think Euron's gonna care? He'll be like, yeah, won't worry about it.
I
We
don't
kind of
think
get
he
a
will
weird
care.
hint at it, like with the dialogue that I almost feel like they're just going to brush over. But when Tyrion eventually comes and talks, like he says, like your kid, Jamie, all this stuff. It's like Euron, if he was smart at all, which I know he's not because of how they fucking wrote this show, but he would have heard that and been like, I just found out that I'm having a
How
baby.
does he know?
How
Yeah.
the hell's this guy know?
Yeah.
You know, like that's so
Right.
easy to put
I don't
together.
think he cares, honestly. But honestly, like I forgot that I mean that this all goes to back up why Jamie's leaving, in my opinion, right? Like, isn't that the whole point? Is like he's got fuck my
I don't wanna talk
kids still
about
in
that.
her belly button.
Yeah, I
In her
still
belly button.
there's
Is that
still
where
part of
kids
me
come
that
from?
thinks that
Yeah,
Cersei is
me
lying
too.
about this,
Where do they
but
come from?
with the admission from Qyburn makes it a little more plausible that she's telling the truth because that's supposed to be the whole thing is that the Maesters know or whatever.
Yeah, that looks-
How they
Definitely
know,
yours,
I
definitely
don't
your
know.
kid.
But so now we cut to a scene. Where we've got Varys, Tyrion, Dany, and Grey Worm. They're inside Dragonstone. They're trying to, kind of come together and assess what they have left after this attack by Euron. And this is Varys once again being like, please don't go there. Because now Dany is really pissed because her dragon is dead. And Varys trying to talk sense into her, and she's just like very upset. But it looks like he was able to essentially talk her down to say, hey, at least give Cersei the opportunity to surrender. And that way the people know you tried to avoid bloodshed. You tried to do this the diplomatic way. And Cersei chose to go the violent route, and they were able to convince her to do this. And we all know it's futile. Like,
Yeah,
there's no
silly,
point in like
silly.
asking for a
How would
surrender.
the people even know, though? I don't know.
Well, I mean, word of mouth, I'm sure, between the soldiers talking.
Yeah,
and
you can imagine
everything.
there's like holes somewhere that the people are like watching outside,
Those
being like,
little
"What are they
birds
saying?"
everywhere, right?
I think they're saying this. There was one more scene that we talked about earlier that like I was a little confused. I just want to know if you guys noticed what was happening there. Where they were kind of talking about, like it was another earlier in the, they were like talking about their battle plans in the south, and Grey Worm like moved a tile very dramatically.
I think he was just showing. He's like, we don't have this. We have half.
Yeah. I know which scene you're
All right,
talking
cool,
about.
cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Like this is a representative of our
Yeah,
numbers.
yeah.
Is that-
Right,
okay.
exactly. He's like, let's like real talk exactly how many
Yeah.
soldiers we don't have.
Yeah.
So
There
this,
was like 10 out there.
yeah, no, there was not many.
That scene was everything about it was
Yeah.
very weird to me. Like how small the group was. I get that. Like that's how small the group was.
Yeah.
But seems really not advisable to go up against
No,
Cersei with a
we're-
million
we're
squad.
almost
All
there.
those arrows. All
We're
right.
very close. So we have this scene now between yet another scene between Varys and Tyrion in the throne room. This like really iconic Dragonstone throne room, and then this is when they're debating who would make a better ruler. And Tyrion reminds Varys, "You're talking treason. She is our queen." And Varys talking about thinking about it. He's like, "You had to have thought about it." He's like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Thoughts aren't treasonous, but what you're talking about is treason." And Tyrion really putting his like stake in the ground for Daenerys here and saying, I trust her to do the right thing. She is my queen. I'm going to follow her. She is going to be the one ruler. And I thought that this was interesting because it's very clear that Varys is breaking here, right? He's like, I'm not sure she is. He's like, I've seen the Mad King. I've seen people do really terrible things, and I'm not convinced that she's not also going to be one of these people. And we see him exit, kind of indicating we don't know what Varys' next move is.
I just don't understand how there could be any question that Daenerys is losing it. Like, how is that? How is Tyrion fighting for her so strongly? Like, you've seen her do a lot of things, and
But
it
I mean-
seems like she keeps. Like earlier, you said like she hit her breaking point. I feel like she's hit her breaking point about 10 times now in the last 2 weeks.
He has to because he knows that if Daenerys loses, he's dead. Like Cersei will kill him. There is no other option but to fight her.
I feel like
There's a couple other options.
I also feel like Cersei has plenty of chances to kill him, and she chooses not to.
Why
which
didn't she
thinks
kill him
Doesn't
this
make any
episode?
sense.
Doesn't make
any sense.
It's a great question.
But I mean, is she losing it, or is she like continuously losing people and going through like loss? Like I don't 100% buy that she's losing it. I think that like horrible shit keeps happening and she's trying to deal with it as best she can, but with like knowing that more horrible shit's right around the corner. And
I'm just gonna run straight at it.
Yeah, it's It's definitely a head scratcher. It certainly sets up a lot of questions for the next episode and reminding us we only have 2 episodes left. So we have 2 more scenes in this episode. This next scene is one that I'm like particularly angry about. So we now are back in Winterfell. We have Brienne and Sansa kind of having a conversation outside, and then Jaime walks up and he's like, what's going on? And they tell him the news about what happened at Dragonstone, how Rhaegal is dead, how they were ambushed on the sea, and
Also, John is like really a Targaryen. Like, I was expecting.
but
her
they
to throw
don't mention
in there.
that. But then Sansa has this quip: "I always wanted to be there when they execute your sister. Seems I won't get the chance." And that just makes me a little angry. That not as angry as the next thing, but that she just refuses to help the side that she's on. And it's like, well, what are you doing about, overthrowing Cersei? You have just as much reason as anybody else to hate her. Like you should be supporting, if nothing else. And Sansa's whole arc has made me really kind of upset this whole season. But then Sansa leaves, walks away after giving this zinger line. And then Jaime is like, well, I'm leaving. And then Brienne tries to talk him out of it. And then we get this line between him and her, and he talks about everyone he's murdered. He's like, I've murdered this person. I did this to get back to Cersei. I did this for Cersei. And she's hateful, and so am I. It's like the line that he like deadpans to her face. And then she like starts weeping that he leaves, and it made me so mad that they did this to Brienne.
Some upsetting shit, dude.
It was horrible.
It was fucking terrible.
How are you gonna have him bang Brienne, showing that they love each other?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wasn't just fucking. Like, they love each other, and he's gonna now leave because he remembered he loves Cersei.
But
him
is that
leaving
why he's
I don't think that's why he's leaving.
Yeah,
I think he's leaving because he has to go take on Cersei. I think he's gonna go kill her.
I think so too.
I mean, that is what he's doing. But I
But
think
like, tell
I-
her. Tell Brienne. Be like, hey,
don't tell her I love
this is
her.
the plan.
I've always had to do this for
But
her.
that's
It's
the
like-
thing. Like,
No, but I
he's
don't
never
know.
been able to like admit when he's trying to do a noble thing.
That was me too. Like what I got from that scene was she's terrible and I'm terrible, and so I'm gonna go basically like kill
Make
her.
sure that-
Like, I have
but
to
the
go kill
show
her.
built up that he
and
gave that
Brienne's
up
like great.
at the end of last season when he left King's Landing.
Yeah.
They've been making this redemption arc for Jaime for several seasons now, and
Several
it's
seasons.
infuriating that they unraveled all of it with this one
Yep.
line
See,
of dialogue.
I don't think that's the
Yeah.
case. I think that he's got to go be the Queenslayer now. I think he's got to go. His destiny is to basically reap what he's sown here and take care of this big problem, which
It
is
is
his family.
But like doing it this way doesn't make
It's-
any sense with the characters we have left and their relationships. Do that together.
It's such-
Go with John. Why are you going by yourself now?
That's true. I have no idea why. Well, Brienne had to stay up there for Sansa, right? Because she promised that she would protect her. But so it makes sense they have to split up a little
Stage
bit because
5
he's got to go
cleaner,
down.
you
You assume he's got to go join the forces and be like, I got to go fight and kill my sister. Like, I have to do
Sure,
that.
but like what they did to Brienne's character and how they made her this like weepy, love-torn woman after having slept with Jaime for one night was absolutely
Oh, she's-
disgusting. I was
feel like
pissed.
she's been in love with him for a long time.
Yeah, they've had
There's a
a long
difference between
relationship.
like having feelings for someone and then acting on them, but then she like loses all of her cool in the moment that he's leaving. She
I don't know,
like,
I-
breaks
I
down
mean,
and
I don't know if
weeps.
you've ever been
everybody.
dumped. Like, it's pretty
It's like
heartbreaking.
Spider-Man in Civil War. Hey, everybody. Can I chime in? Sure.
Yes, of
I
course.
know I'm just taking it a little far that I'm like somebody in the chat, but I'm in the room, so I can come be in the room. This same conversation broke out at the Miller household last night with Jen and Lucy being like, what the fuck? Why would he do it? For me, this is classic Hollywood. This is classic Harry and the Hendersons. He doesn't want her to get killed either. So he has to break her heart here, lie to her, tell her, no, I'm a horrible person. I'm fucking hateful. She's hateful. And he's totally going there to kill her to hopefully return back alive and have her be vanquished.
It just. It
Fendi
seems
says, Greg,
like
stop being lazy and just write in the chat like the rest of us.
Sorry.
He's just saying that.
I agree with that, but I feel like that's really poor, shitty like storytelling of we want one more twist in the next episode or the episode after that where it turns out Jaime was in fact still on our side, and it's just like, all right.
I don't think that's going to be the case. I understand your perspective on this, totally understand it. But for me, I thought this moment was touching because it was the first time Bran was like, I love this guy, and now he's going to leave. And I didn't take it as a you're leaving me because people are saying like he hit it and quit it. I don't take it as that. I took it as he's basically saying goodbye. I'm going to go die. And she doesn't want that because she's just finally come to terms with the fact that she loves this guy, even though he was like a mortal enemy for a long time, and he kind of loves her too. I thought it was a really touching scene personally.
I mean, but like
I
that's
didn't
not what
mind the
happened
display of
though.
emotion.
He wasn't like, I'm gonna go and fight. Like he was like, hey, fuck you. This isn't what I want. I want that. I'll see you later. Bye.
He
Well,
he
and it was
basically was like, "This. Look at all the cool shit I did, murdering people for Cersei. I will do anything to get back to her." Essentially, rubbing it in his face. I like Greg's theory, but like we have 2 episodes left. You
I mean,
know?
I think we're gonna get that. Like I think that like he really is gonna go and
We're
like.
getting a happy ending, ladies and gentlemen. It's all happening. We're seeing it all build up now, where
I hope not.
everything's
I
going
hope
to be
this is all one big fucking
beautifully-
troll and Cersei wins. I hope,
I
she
hope so,
fucking
too. Honestly,
not
that
even
would
hard.
bring it back.
Just demolishes everyone. And
Yep.
was like bang, 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 and then everyone gets their
But,
head
like,
cut off. She's like,
I
I'm
really
everything.
would prefer that.
Yeah. I would
over
love
what
that.
we're building towards right now.
Fuck Sansa, fuck everyone,
Yeah.
fuck Jon. Everyone's dead. You're all dumb. You can't fucking run armies anyway because you have no concept of
You don't
strategic.
deserve to win.
You have no
So
concept of
dumb.
strategy or tactics. You have a fucking dragon. You just let it fly around all willy nilly.
It's like when your favorite basketball
Put some
team
armor on him.
misses a bunch of free
Right?
throws, and you're like, you didn't deserve
you
to
don't
win.
even win. Yeah. You didn't even try tonight.
You know, that's how I feel.
Like I said,
sometimes.
hard. You got to master a mason. Like just have him make some fucking dragon armor.
Yeah.
It'd
Easy
be cool.
peasy.
It'd be cool.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't take out this spear that gets
No, yeah, that
shot
goes
out
through
at
everything.
8,000 miles per hour, but whatever.
And at least get blade hands. Come
Yeah,
on.
there was a
Fucking blade hands.
hands.
Where is Blade Hands? There was a whole like contingency of medieval weapons specialists that took to social media last night, being like, "Let me put on my nerd glasses as to why this would not work the way that Game of Thrones made these crazy weapons work, and how physics they just defy all
They
laws of
travel
physics."
like up to 60
light
miles
speed,
in
yeah.
distance.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, but in a world where dragons exist, it's like, oh, you know, what's real and what's not.
Do they still have the dragon fire as well, or is that all gone?
No, I
You
wouldn't-
mean the wildfire?
The wildfire,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
no, they still got that.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, Cersei's gonna win. Hell yeah, I'm
You know,
on Team
Cersei-
Cersei. I've been forever.
This is
Burn-
definitely
burn
a
green.
David and Goliath situation, which is why I really want David to win. So, okay, now we got the last episode, or the last scene of the episode. We are now in front of King's Landing, and some fast travel magic happening where they just poof, they're
Which
at
was-
King's Landing.
At that point, they're pretty close.
already here?
Dragonstone's very close to
Sure,
King's Landing.
it's fine. We don't know what happened to all the ships that got destroyed. Apparently, they found some new ones.
Yeah,
so
I guess.
So they're standing outside the gates of King's Landing, and we've got the Mountain, Qyburn, Missandei in chains, and Cersei atop the wall, and then Qyburn goes down and exits out the front gates. Daenerys is
hands.
with her tiny little contingency of Unsullied with Grey Worm.
Not a smart thing. I'd have like just go out there and kill her all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They
Well,
could have
we
been all
see-
taken out by arrows.
Well, we see Drogon in the background, right? Just hopefully safely
Drogon
out of
right
the
now.
Down.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
scorpions.
So many
everywhere.
scorpions they can shoot hundreds of miles away. He's right there. Just shoot him.
Yeah. So I think the idea is that he's just out of range of where they can shoot him, and so he's in the back,
Then shoot Daenerys
lurking
in the
around.
fucking head when he comes in to like.
Then shoot him. You've
something
got
to shoot
hundreds
him.
of these scorpions
I mean,
just chilling.
Cersei has already shown that she doesn't care about the rules of war, like the
Yeah,
rules of
right?
engagement, right? So she fights dirty. Like, why is she not fighting dirty here?
Didn't make sense.
So we see Missandei up on the wall. Qyburn walks out. They have this super tense conversation between the two of them.
And then
both
Tyrion's just
demanding
like-
surrender.
Tyrion's just like, fuck you. Why am I talking to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, which
a good
again
moment.
is to
Good
me like
moment.
I
is
speak for the queen. Why
Tyrion
the fuck
being
am I talking to you?
Tyrion. I actually got like a little upset because I was like, the stakes are so much higher now than they have been previously. But I think he knows like Cersei isn't going to kill me. She had many opportunities to.
Which is
Here's
ridiculous.
the thing that doesn't make sense. She sent Bronn to kill him.
Put a hit
Right.
on him.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't she kill him?
Well, I think
He's right there.
I think the implication here was that like, granted, we only saw about 14 Unsullied hanging out having a fucking Starbucks behind Daenerys, but we assume there's a dragon and an army behind them, and so if you do that, then that's it. We're provoking this. But I also think she wanted to send more of a psychological message, which was killing like her best friend. Like Cersei's not dumb.
Yeah.
she's really
not
good at
she's not a
fucking with people's
hothead
brains.
for sure. She's super
I
manipulative.
don't think she is very good at fucking with people's brains. I think that she's just very like evil and does
Addicted.
the evilest thing and like doesn't make any sense for her character not to start attacking when there's like a fraction of an army and the other army 2 weeks away.
But that's
You
not
know?
that's not the Game of Thrones though, right?
Okay.
If they
and
killed,
she doesn't
if they
play
killed
the Game of
Daenerys, the
Thrones.
dragon and the rest of them would poof away.
It's true. The Night King.
And we had to
Night
have
King
2
rules.
more episodes worth of stuff that's happening here. So I think it was a really impactful moment when Qyburn was like, "You need to surrender here and now, or Missandei of North will be executed. And it was very clear that it's like, we're going to kill her right now if you just don't surrender. And we know that Cersei's going to do it, right? Based off everything we've seen from the Lannisters over these 8 seasons. And then, Qyburn goes back up and we have Tyrion trying to appeal to her motherly senses, like, don't do this, what kind of world is it for your babies, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, what's even happening?
What are you saying?
The whole time I was like, he's gonna get shot. Why isn't she shot? Moreover, I was just pissed that Missandei doesn't like Harry Potter Cersei and like fall over the edge like he does with Voldemort. I was just like, why didn't you not just throw yourself over the edge? You know you're about to die.
I thought she was gonna kill herself, which I thought would have been really cool for her character. I've been like, you're not gonna kill me. Like just locking eyes with her lover and she's been like, and then just taking the step. I was like, oh, that would have been cool.
I do love that she didn't cry. She didn't have any fear. She was just there.
What did she cry out at the end?
She yells Dracarys.
Is that the
Burn.
Essentially saying like burn him to the ground, right? Like that's her call to Grey Worm and
Which
to
is a
Daenerys.
bad thing to say.
bad.
It's like that. It's like a weird thing that they're building here with Daenerys. It's like, so she's gonna be the Mad Queen, like because her friend died. Like now, why wouldn't she?
Well, her friend and her children also, because you have to remember, like the dragons are her kids too, right? So now she's had 2 kids die.
So it's like we could have just reverted to 3 seasons ago when she's like, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna come in and burn everything."
Yeah.
'Cause, like,
Right.
I don't know. We'll see how they play this out.
It's an interesting choice. And by interesting, I mean, why?
Because they needed someone to die. They needed a moment for people to be like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
about, and like that's what her dying and the dragon dying and Ghost leaving all felt just
Yeah.
like. Well, we need something for gifts.
Well, I mean, something for gifts. I do like some of the chatter I saw about people saying at least she got a noble death, that she stood proud, and even though she was beheaded, it's like essentially the death that Ned Stark had, and the people were reminding us, oh yeah, Tywin Lannister got killed in a bathroom on a toilet. Like there are worse ways to go.
I disagree so much because she is one of the few characters that dying in chains.
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot of
like,
there's people on the other side reminding us very acutely
that she was the slave.
That she is the person of color in this cast who died in the chains that she started in, and what that implication means, and playing into the tropes of people of color always being murdered in film. And I agree that it was like a terrible choice for her to go out that way, and I would have preferred to see Grey Worm and Missandei have their ride off into the sunset moment like Sam and Gilly got. And I was like, what's so wrong with Grey Worm and Missandei having a happy ending after the horrible fucking life they both had?
Yeah, but like,
I think she should have walked off. I think she should have taken herself out.
I think when Cersei grabbed her arm like this, why do you not grab that bitch and jump off the edge of the wall?
That would have been wild. Because then everyone would have been like,
that would have been a shocking, amazing
what do we do now?
moment.
If Cersei died that way, then I would have been like, this is Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
That would have been fucking awesome, because then what happens to the battle, right?
But it
Who's
also
in
wasn't that high.
charge,
They would have
right?
like dislocated their shoulders.
What?
Maybe.
It was so high.
It wasn't that high.
It was tremendously. They would have absolutely died.
Nah. Broken ribs, punctured lung, maybe.
I would have preferred. I would have preferred
Also,
that.
Tyrion just starts stabbing her when she lands on the bottom.
Runs after her.
Qyburn fucking just gives her robot legs like Darth Maul when he comes back. And then we finally get blade hands Jamie versus robot legs Cersei.
Do you think
together they make one human.
Do you think he's
love
gonna mountain up Rhaegal? That'd be cool. Rhaegal's really deep in the ocean, but imagine if he brought Rhaegal back to life.
He's really deep.
And his like face is all bloated and puffy, like fucking the mountains looks. I hate looking at the mountains.
It makes me so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Makes me so
Something
uncomfortable.
really bad to look at. That's true.
So now we know it's on. We get this like kind of final shot of Daenerys like filled with fury, right? And like the anguish on Grey Worm's face, knowing that he's lost the one thing that was keeping him really kind of human and kind of bringing him out of this slave mentality he had for so many years of his life. And now he's furious, Dany's furious, but it's like, what are you gonna do? This is Cersei like laying her dick on the table, being like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
And
Big
it's
clip. Just
seriously.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I don't know. 2 more episodes to go. We'll see. How are they going to stick this landing? Let's go to
broken ankle.
I was
Patreon.
gonna say, I think the landing already got fucked up, and they're just like, well, how do we stick the Starbucks run now?
/ kind of funny. You can write in your responses to this. Krajuki writes in and says, it was a good episode, started strong and only got better. Tormund, who I strive to be. Watching Daenerys' expressions and demeanor over the course of the episode stuck out to me the most. Nanobiologist said, I love last night's episode. It had more drama and even more deaths, but it also showed one key thing that most other shows with the looming zombie threat continue to present. Humans are way more of a threat than anything else. You shouldn't be as scared of the dead as you should the living. Humans are unpredictable, conniving, and have so many hidden motivations and pose a greater threat to humanity than anything else. Not the Lysander says Ghost needs to build up his own army, team up with Nymeria's army and Drogon, and chop all these fools who take the throne for themselves. Hashtag team eat them all. Hashtag pet ghost, damn it. Hashtag justice for Rhaegal. And not the Lysander writes in again saying, in an ironic twist of fate, good old dead Ned Stark was the best liar of the entire lot. Loose lips, John / Sansa / Tyrion / Varys. Loose lips.
That's pretty funny.
I mean, Ned
That's
Stark
good.
kept that secret for his entire life. Well, half of his life, I guess.
That's fair. Do you think John, on some level, like subconsciously, was like, if I tell Sansa like this, I'll manifest this? Do you think he's like,
He doesn't want it though. Like I genuinely believe that he doesn't want
feel
it.
like
I
he's-
just
I feel like he's
think that he
conflicted.
could not keep the secret.
Yeah, I think he had to be like my dad, or Ned. Honorable. I just want to make sure everyone knows Ned did not fuck some lady. I'm not his bastard. Just like,
Daenerys is right in that moment that they had back at Winterfell when they were in, Jon's chamber. She's like, listen, it doesn't matter what you think. Once this gets out, people will want you to be the king. I'm always going to be challenged. First off, I'm a woman, and I'd be the first woman to sit on the Iron Throne with a legitimate claim, even though Cersei kind of like took it. By force. And she's like, if you have a stake, like an actual claim, a lineage claim, like there's no way people are ever going to want to put me there. And she's absolutely right in
100%.
saying that. So like, I get why she's like, listen, people are going to make their own thoughts and feelings. You have to keep it a secret, but there's no keeping that secret.
I hate that Euron is such an important key player right now because
So upsetting.
I feel
I
like when
love
he
it.
was introduced,
I love it.
He'd have been
crazy.
killed several episodes later.
No, he's awesome.
No, he's not.
he's not. He's not awesome.
No.
He
Euron's
sucks.
awesome, dude. He's just a fucking blunt instrument. It's great.
I
He just
really
sucks
do.
as a
It
character.
does make me excited, though, that when they announced that Yara has retaken the Iron Islands in the name of the Queen, then I'm like, maybe there's hope that Yara's going to have a really cool moment in one of these final 2 episodes where she maybe can come in and save the day.
She's gotten defeated by Euron before. Like,
In the same way.
yeah.
The same exact way.
Right,
Or he
but
just came
it
over and
doesn't.
just destroyed them.
But it
Euron's
doesn't mean she
undefeated,
can't.
man.
It doesn't mean that she can't learn
He's the
from
goat
her
of God.
mistakes and maybe come back stronger.
But Euron's boats are now only like more stronger. Like they're now they have
What
scorpions.
if they do like a sneak attack in the night? They just take Drogon, a
did.
little stealthy attack.
Submarines.
They light all the ships on fire, and then he makes a quick exit.
It would have been that
I mean,
would
that
have
would
been
be
great.
smart because
Yeah.
you can't see things in the sky at night. But
Yeah.
let's attack everyone during the day. That makes more sense.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 4
The
of
goat of
Kinda
God.
Funny. The goat of God. Let's just leave it
Useless
there. 2
contribution.
more episodes to go. I love you guys.
It's gonna
Bye.
pick up. How dare you?